Good morning. Perhaps I should say good afternoon. It's getting to be that time now. I'm very happy to be here. This is actually my fourth time in front of an audience at an EO event. And my first EO event was actually at Transition China last year. So I'd like to thank Andrew and his team and EO Shanghai for putting this kind of event together now for the second year. I'm very happy to be here for many other reasons. I'm a resident of Shanghai, and it's always nice to talk to a crowd that a lot of people are from Shanghai, and so I'm going to be speaking to some of that to you today. My topic is making money from China's millions, 1.3 billion opportunities. Now, it sounds pretty financially focused, a lot about money. And I'm sort of the Supertrends guy. If you've seen me speak before at an EO event or somewhere else in China, I usually talk about these economic supertrends, things like urbanization, new manufacturing in China, innovation, how people are starting to become more sustainable, and so on. I'm actually going to talk about something a little bit different today. I'm going to be talking about demographics, and specifically where demographics and China's 1.3 billion consumers come together in terms of their hopes and their dreams for the future. And I think that this is something that every entrepreneur who's in China or doing business with China needs to know. Simply because if you don't understand the people that you're doing business with or the consumers that you're selling to, you're not going to be very successful here. So I'm going to be talking about that today. And I'll be referring to some of these ideas throughout the presentation. But I've been in China now for almost 10 years, and I've noticed a surprising trend recently. For those of you who have been in China for a long time, like myself, have you noticed anybody leaving recently? Have you had friends who are going home, maybe this year, maybe next year? I've had several good friends leave last year. This year, 3 more friends are leaving. And these are not short-term residents of China. These are not contract-based executives. These are long-term China residents. These are business people. These are entrepreneurs. And these people are choosing to leave. And it's not just the Western people that are leaving. It's the Chinese entrepreneurs who are leaving too. Everybody seems to be leaving right now. And so I asked this question, why are so many people leaving? I found that, in fact, there have been a number of articles published in the past year that really kind of highlight this phenomenon. The first I want to talk about is from Mark Aikido. Some of you may remember him as the founder of That's Magazines. That's Shanghai, that's Guangzhou, that's Beijing, and so forth. And the saga when he actually lost his business to some unscrupulous business partners. Mark Aikido wrote this article. It's kind of a confessional about why he was leaving China, and he published it online last year. In it, he said that he had a justifiable human desire not to concern myself that the air my family breathes and the food we eat is doing us physical harm. Well, okay, maybe one person does not make a trend. But then came a guy named Chris Ellis. Some of you may know him, another long-term old China hand. Chris has been doing business here for many years. Some people love him, some people hate him. But he makes a lot of good points, and he wrote his own essay on why he was leaving China. In it, he said, with me, there is really only one area where I truly feel disappointed, and that is the air quality. Okay, 2 people. But then more recently came Mark Vanderchis, who you probably know as the co-founder of video sharing website Tudo. He wrote his own article, which was actually published on CNN. And in it, he says, I have a young family with 2 young kids, and I found myself wondering about the health effects of long-term exposure to hazardous air. So I'm starting to sense a pattern here. What is it that they're all talking about, though? I wondered. I wrote in 2008, in my first book, all about how things were getting much better in China, how pollution was finally being cleared up. This is the CCTV tower in Beijing around the time of the Olympics in 2008. And at that time, newspapers even proclaimed things, blue sky days are back. 100 blue sky days in Beijing this year. A massive improvement over previous years. Fast forward to today, Beijing looks like this again. Unfortunately, gray skies are back too. So I asked myself, is this the answer? If I want to do business in Shanghai, in Beijing, in China, and continue to do to follow my dreams, is this the only way that I can do it? Do I have to give up my health? Do I have to give up the health of my family? Do I have to make sacrifices in order to do business here? And so this is one of these kind of overriding things that I think about, and I think everybody perhaps shares this same desire to have a healthy living environment. And so when I heard about the theme for today's event, talking about why we are here, why we're in entrepreneurship, what's our desire to be in China and to be in business, well, thoughts like this kind of came to me. Because I used to have a China dream. My old China dream actually came from this book, which in fact was called The China Dream. Some of you may have read this book back in 2003 by Joe Studwell. In it, he described the China Dream, which in fact goes back hundreds of years to people like Marco Polo, who visited China with a China Dream. What was that China Dream? I think all of us can say it. It's some variation of this. If every Chinese person would buy something, I'd be rich. I'd make so much money. I'd be a millionaire. Only if they buy one more of these things. If every Chinese person would buy one of these. Well, we all know now that's not going to happen. That rarely has happened in the past. The China Dream was a myth. But there's other China dreams, and that's really what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'd like to share my own personal China dream. This is something which won't apply to everybody because everyone has to have their own China dream. My new China dream is something to do with sustainability. Okay? And in my definition, sustainability means a combination of reducing pollution, improving health, and promoting education. I do this through my work at Jiaotong University as a teacher. I also run a corporate training business where I promote education. And I'm currently starting a social enterprise based here in Shanghai, which is going to have some of these values. What is a social enterprise? Usually it's an enterprise that follows what's so-called triple bottom line. People, planet, profit. And in that order. People first in terms of community. Planet in terms of the ecology and the environment that you're doing business in. And finally, profit. Because it's not business if there is no profit. And it's certainly not sustainable if there is no profit. So social enterprise is my new China dream. And that's what I'm following. You may have a different China dream. But I'd like to show you briefly what are some of the China dreams of China entrepreneurs who maybe share this idea of sustainability through this short video presentation. Could we load this, please? This building is a building produced by Broad Sustainable Building Company, which is a division of the Broad Group, a company which was formed by an entrepreneur named Zhang Yue, who they're best known for air conditioners. And I think this entrepreneur, he started wondering himself about what impact his products were having on the world, what he could do with those products in a more sustainable way, and he came up with this: modular construction using cutting-edge environmental technologies, fast building times to reduce pollutions. It's an amazing demonstration. So that really inspired me to start to look in new directions and to start thinking about this idea of sustainability. Now, his next project looks something like this. He's trying to build the world's biggest tower, 838 meters tall, which would actually be taller than the world's tallest building in Dubai, within the next 3 years. We'll see if he makes it, but I'm pretty optimistic based on the results so far. Now, as I started to write my most recent book, called China's Demographic Supertrends, I started thinking about what do Chinese people want. The real focus of this book, it's no longer about economics, it's about people. And the main idea is, what do China's 1.3 billion consumers want from life? What do they feel? What do they think? And so, it's a guidebook for entrepreneurs to understand customers in a new way, to try to go a bit deeper than the typical economic understanding that you might apply, and look further into what people are thinking about and dreaming about. Now, how do you figure that out? Well, you have to kind of look at a couple of examples in order to figure out what this actually means. This is China's new president, Xi Jinping. He's given us a lot of clues into what it actually means to have a China dream. Now these are his words, so I'd like to read them, and I just want to make sure I don't make any mistakes. I'm just going to get out my note here. So in his inauguration ceremony, President Xi said, "Our people love life and expect a better education system, more job stability, better income, more reliable social security, medical care of a higher standard, more comfortable living conditions, and a more beautiful environment. They hope that their children can grow up better, can work better, and live better. The yearning for a good and beautiful life is a goal for us to strive for." Now, that's a pretty long way from where Deng Xiaoping launched China into its modern economic era in 1978 by saying, "Some must get rich first." Right? Now we're focused on quality of life, and importantly, trying to establish a life that people want to live, that's not materialistic, that's not so obsessively focused on the generation of wealth. And so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what this actually means here in China today. First and foremost, Chinese people put their children at at the top of their dreams. The next generation is really where they place all of the effort on. And they'll do almost anything to make the lives of their children better than their own lives, even going so far as to buy milk powder in foreign countries because they're worried about the quality of the milk powder found here in China. Now, it gets so bad that people were going to Hong Kong and literally bringing back caseloads of milk powder, which resulted in Hong Kong's government banning this practice, this parallel trade. Nevertheless, they found another way. Now they're going as far as the United States, the UK, and other countries, and literally mailing the milk powder back to China. It's milk powder arbitrage, so that they can provide this product for the parents, who definitely want it. There's a pretty good profit in doing this. But for all of us as entrepreneurs, I'm sure you can see the huge opportunity in this as well. Here's another example. Everybody wants healthy, safe food. It's a universal value, not Chinese value. Everybody wants this. Recently, Shanghai found 15,000 dead pigs floating in the river. More recently, we have the bird flu scare, which has caused Chinese people to stop eating chicken. And in fact, some people are so scared now of birds that literally, they run from fowl. They run from the poultry. So, again, as entrepreneurs, what could we do here? You can actually do quite a lot. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs here are in the food and beverage business. You are in the food distribution business. Or, like one colleague of mine, you could even start to be a grower of food yourself. I know one person who is growing food on farms. I know another person who is growing food with hydroponics. And I know a third person who is growing food with aquaponics, which is a combination of fish and vegetables grown together. All of these are tremendous opportunities in China right now. Here's another thing Chinese people want. They don't want to be house slaves. They don't want to be burdened by a mortgage. But there's certain social pressures and reasons why they are opting to do this. I believe one reason they're opting to do this is because there are no other really good choices out there. The rental market in China is very immature. There's millions of apartment buildings, which are actually standing empty because the landlords buy them and then just leave them there for speculation. Who's going to be the first entrepreneur to take over an entire building, turn it into rental properties, and lease it out to China's young consumers who are now urbanizing into the cities? This is a huge opportunity as well because China's going to have tens of millions more people coming into the cities in the next 10 years. Everybody wants fresh, clean air. When I showed the picture of Beijing a couple of minutes ago, I think some of you were probably saying, haha, I live in Shanghai, where the skies are clear and blue. Well, sorry, the air here is pretty bad too. Air filters, air purification, air testing. A couple of years ago, I met entrepreneurs who were doing this business. They were actually struggling. Today, they're making huge amounts of money. Are there still opportunities within this sector? Sure. It just takes the right idea, the right passion. One entrepreneur in China is doing it himself by selling canned air. This is Chen Guangbiao's good guy Chen, it says on his can. Fresh air. Comes in 2 flavors, pristine Tibet and post-industrial Taiwan. I don't quite get the post-industrial Taiwan, but sort of. So this is more of a PR stunt than a real product, but it points to the need. That if people are making these kind of statements, then surely there is a consumer need there, and it just needs the entrepreneurs to find it. Most Chinese people don't want to get rich. They don't want to become multimillionaires. That dream is so beyond the realm of possibility for them that they don't really even think about it. They just want a better life. But China's migrant workers, you have to remember, there's more than 260 million migrant workers, and their incomes have been going up very, very quickly in the last couple of months. China's poorest consumers are now becoming valuable markets which entrepreneurs can target. Chinese people wish they didn't have to go abroad to get out of this environment. They wish they could stay here. But the reality is many Chinese are choosing to go abroad. They're choosing to travel there, to live there, to immigrate there. And this is something which maybe entrepreneurs can't do a lot about. But again, there's tremendous opportunities within this trend of people moving abroad. Millions of people in a kind of reverse brain drain. Some of them have come back to China after education, now they're leaving again. Chinese people wish there was less government corruption. They wish that their government officials would not send their children and their families abroad, taking with them millions of RMB at the same time. And China's government wishes this too. They wish that that money was properly accounted for. They wish that that money was spent in China rather than abroad. Issues involved in the IPO market, and there's other things to consider in that. But the key is that people don't trust the companies that are on the market right now. The transparency is not there. So, speaking of transparency, Chinese people wish they had more transparency into things like how people get jobs in state-owned enterprises, in government positions. Rather than using guanxi and entitlements, is there a better way? And can we avoid situations like this? This is House Auntie, who was caught about 2 or 3 months ago holding more than a dozen properties under multiple identities. And this is a government official, right, with fake identities and essentially illegal property holdings. She's joined by House Brother and House Uncle, who have dozens, even more than 50 properties under the assets of one police officer in Guangzhou. 50. So this idea of corruption, this idea of social injustice, this idea of fairness. Can entrepreneurs do something about this? Sure, of course we can. It's called transparency. And the internet is one of the greatest tools invented for allowing transparency. Now, those of you who have been in China will also note the censorship here. You'll also note the government control over certain sectors of the internet. But I have a more optimistic outlook. Sina's product Weibo, the Twitter-like service that was introduced a couple of years ago, has done more to root out corruption from China's bureaucracy than any other media in China has to date. And I'm looking forward to what's going to be happening in the future with other services like Weixin. Now, I think it's best to hear in Chinese people's own words what they think about all of this. So just to close, I have one short video which was produced for the UN Development Project last year, and this is called The Future We Want. Please.
20年后，我希望
最大的希望就是家乡的雪山能够依然那样的洁白无瑕，江河水流也依然能够那样的清澈无比。
我能这样的。
我有一个幸福美满的家庭和可爱的2个孩子。
我们这类人不要过度的开展有限的地产资源，
在全世界走到哪里都能够用中国话跟他交流。
20年后，我希望我的孩子将来比我过得更好。
妈妈不再像现在一样孤独，她身边能有一个体贴她、理解她的另一半，与她共度余生。
大家真的能把脚步慢下来，让我们去享受现在我们所拥有的东西。
那么我呢，希望20年以后，没有战争，没有恐怖，没有国界。
到时候人们看待残疾人和不是健全的人的时候，就能够像看待女人和男人一样。
咱不要继续再商化，也不要那么恶劣下去。
人们不要再用职业成功作为评判一个人人生成功的唯一标准。
I hope the world will be a better place to live。我希望我的父亲不要再吸烟了。
不会因为疾病或者是说年龄的增长，成为了人类自己生活的一个负担。
我希望20年后，我依然可以陪我的父亲钓鱼，我也依然可以跟我的母亲吵架。
如果那时候我有了小孩，我希望能够和他一起见证我小时候见过的这段风景。
时光机你发明了吗？我想到过去跟爷爷再见一面。
我希望医院有女孩给我电话。
其实我高中也想当一名生物学家，因为我当时对世界动物的多样性极端的迷恋。我希望20年后，生态和文化多样性依然得到很好的保护。
希望不管在什么地方，不管你的户口在哪里，你都能够享受到同样的保障。
希望20年以后，我能开口说出为奴隶感恩。
20年后，我想自己活得不焦虑。
我希望我们善待研究院。
在大街上，我看不到一只流浪狗。我希望人类和动物能够和谐地并存。
我希望你不要像我那样循规蹈矩的生活，要敢于去冒险，去尝试新的东西。遇到喜欢的女孩，你就去追，想吃什么就吃什么。在年轻的时候，把所有的错误都干掉。
我希望地球上的孩子们能够多一些笑容，少一些沉默。
别那么 social， 就是大家都放轻松，打出一双翅膀，飞到世界的任何角落。
我希望地球上种满了花，我要去火星玩，带一个火星人来。说上。
在这个变化无常的世界里，无论20年后你听到、看到或者经验到什么，放轻松，用一颗良善的心去面对自己，也面对别人。希望20年以后，你们的愿望都已经实现了。
So, I've watched that video many times and it has inspired me, as I hope it's inspired some of you. If you want to know how to make millions in China, those are your 1.3 billion opportunities. It's all in there. So today I've told you about the dreams and hopes of 1.3 billion people. And I told you a little bit about my own hopes and dreams for the future. I'm staying in China. This is where I'm going to be. And now all that's left is for you to think, what's your new China dream? Thank you very much.